David, hi. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining our Annex Cloud Market Movers. It's our virtual chat session. We're doing these since a couple weeks ago. We decided to do these to really bring some key influencers and some real thought leaders around some of the challenges that we're currently facing in today's economy. So it's great to have you. So thanks for joining us. I think what we'll do is just chat a little bit about, what we're seeing, some of the opportunities that we need to tackle, and bring some additional perspective to brands, retailers, and manufacturers so that we can provide some real value and some actions that the folks can take. Okay, so
that sounds great.
What we've seen, David, is quite a bit of challenges with respect to the economy. Gas prices are low. That's really the only bright spot. But we're seeing a lot of challenges related to unemployment. We're also seeing a lot of brands and manufacturers and retailers struggle a little bit, especially in specific verticals. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, what should brands, manufacturers, and retailers, what should they do right now to set them up for success in 2020?
Yeah, good question. Also, the other bright spot is no traffic. You aren't really going anywhere, but in Los Angeles, there's next to no traffic, so that's unheard of in this city. But you're right. There certainly are incredible challenges, but with any kind of challenge comes opportunity. So, as somebody who kind of has worked in the corporate world and in the sort of the 9-to-5 world, and then transitioning over to kind of having my own business and working as a consultant for a variety of brands across CPG and retail, some of the things that you learn while doing that and working with startups is, being able to react quickly, being able to understand that markets change and fluctuate. So the sort of guarantees and sort of nice to haves that you have with an established brand, you don't have with a startup. So it brings to mind a lot of what I think brands and retailers can first of all, get into the mindset of there's a new normal, at least for the time being. And I when we think of 2020, I don't even think of 2020 as an entire calendar year anymore. I think of it week by week and month by month. And I think everything's going to change week by week and month by month. So what I've advised clients on and has worked for us is don't try to plan ahead for, don't try to do September planning right now, because the universe can change. Whether it's going to be, November, there could be a re-lockdown, or there couldn't be. People be going back, there could be more traveling. So I think the way that I would set up everyone for a 2020 success, obviously you have to plan and have finance plan and budgets and all that stuff. You don't want to give your CFO a heart attack by saying we don't have a plan. But essentially, what you're going to look at is take what you plan to do for June, look at your budget. What can you do? How can you respond to the market? Are states starting to open up? Plan regionally. If you're kind of a store, you should be you're a brick and mortar, a retailer rather, and you have stores. Plan your promotions and for reopening, for like grand reopenings, things like that. Retail is eventually going to open up again, so you don't want to be caught behind when each of these states are opening up. So I think the plan for 2020 would be do it a month in advance or 2 months in advance max. I think about your budgets and your forecasts in that way. Don't freak out either. If you may have more opportunities now if you plan in that way. So it's a real chance for organizations to be more nimble. So I think the opportunity here is where a lot of legacy brands love to sort of plan this stuff a year out, or they plan it 6 months out. And because of that, they sort of get beat by their competitors who are more nimble and fast moving, and they don't have the apparatus and the bureaucracy in the way. So way to set it up, plan early for the next month if you can, next 2 months. Start to understand where you can sort of speak to your customers promotionally. If you're a brick and mortar retailer, start thinking about your rollout strategies, your re-engagement to get customers back in stores. I think there's going to be pent up demand. And think about it locally. So 2020 is going to be a really weird fiscal year. You may see massive increases or spikes, and you may see declines, but roll with the punches. Don't be stuck to a plan that you made in 2019 for 2020.
Awesome. So I heard a couple of really key things. One is you got to take the right action, right? You got to be able to kind of recalibrate, make sure you're making smart investments, make sure that you're positioning yourself for a lot of success, coming out of this, because we will have a recovery, right? We are going to have a recovery. It's
Absolutely.
be as
The
fast as
president says
everybody
it's going to be
wants.
better than ever. So
Exactly. So it's a huge opportunity. So brands, manufacturers, retailers should be looking at this as an opportunity to make sure that they're connecting with their most valuable customers. And they could certainly do so in the form of a really robust, very strategic loyalty program, and maximize the things that they control, as well as positioning them for success coming out of this thing in 2020. So that's exciting. So when you think about everybody kind of moving, online, to your point, the traffic, right? The traffic is coming online. We're all at home, we're staying at home, we're having a lot of kind of a renaissance of social media as well. We're all connecting as best we can in the absence of physical connectedness. Kind of what do you think is the right kind of experience, right? What is the right customer experience? What's the right level of engagement? How do brands, retailers, and manufacturers make highly engaging, impactful experiences with customers, existing customers, as well as those that are interested in telling their friends and family all about the things that they're currently doing with their favorite brand or their favorite retailer? Can you talk a little bit about what is that kind of optimized customer experience in this sort of difficult economy?
Yeah, and I think it's different for different brands. So when I think about some, so there's like, I've seen this sort of spectrum. Some brands are kind of lightly touching on, COVID-19, and others are leaning heavily into it or having on their site, information about, our cleaning processes and how we fulfill and how we ship and how we're responding internally. Who are we donating to? So there's the kind of extremes, where you want to support, where you want to have that. So I think probably, at least right now, it's sort of a good thing to think about where and how you can be charitable, how you can give back to healthcare workers, how you can give back to your community. Schools are going to be incredibly hard hit. I'm seeing this in LA County. I'm seeing it across the country. So how do you help give back to your local community? If you're an LA-based business, give back to LA. If you're Chicago, give back to Chicago. So I think in terms of just having that conversation about what's going on during all this craziness, have a conversation with your customer base about where you are with your employees, where you are on your manufacturing side, where you are with your distribution. Mention it. I think, though, at the same time, you don't stray from who you are as a brand. As much as we're leaning in and talking about this now, I'm sort of advocating for a shift right now back to not quite normal, but getting out of what I was calling like peak panic, 3-4 weeks ago. So I think it's important to sort of still have these components. And certainly I think the charitable one is one you can do, not just during this time, but anytime. But, talking about, you have sites that have updates on their all across like social media, et cetera. So I think it's time to start engaging your core brand values a little bit more. If you're a Forever 21, whether you're Carbon 38, whether you're one of the brands that I work with, I think lean more now into brand messaging, because I think there's a bit of fatigue. There's certainly lockdown fatigue. You're starting to see that now, but there's also kind of fatigue about talking about this. So I think now if I'm brand spending money, I think we spend in the right areas to sort of get back to that sort of, hey, here's who we are, here's our brand position. And then when you speak about loyalty, I mean, those are going to be your advocates, So I think Instagram, and I've been saying this for years, and it's still true, it's still going to be a place to invest if you're a brand. You have to be smarter about it. There's less sort of ROI than there used to be when brands like Fashion Nova took over and exploded on Instagram pretty much exclusively. But how do you get out there and talk to your customers? Well, you're going to be social. Be social in the way that you as a brand are social. Showcase your products. Showcase, if travel starts to open up. So I think customers are going to shift and want to hear more about the brand and being less focused on coronavirus and the fears of catching it and all that stuff.
Right.
And on the loyalty piece of it, when I think of how you target your loyal customers, this is a good time to do kind of email only exclusives, Instagram only exclusives, SMS, where you get deals and discounts that go for one day only or something like that. Thank you for being with us, during this time. We're showing our appreciation. So there's a lot of that I've seen, and that's worked for my brands too. So I think on the loyalty side, giving them something back is important. And it's a good time to think about how you can discount, because no customer is going to hold it against brands that are discounting right now. Everybody's going to go through a tough time. The economy is going to, it's going to be rough, certainly for at least a couple quarters here, if not more. So I think customers are aware of that. I don't think brands need to worry so much about losing sort of their core value props if they discount. So attach, definitely if you're skittish about discounts, loyalty is the way to go. Your CRM list, your most loyal customers, even if you don't want to give it to your entire CRM list, it could be purchasers that bought 2 to 3 times in a year or something like that. So really important to make sure that those folks stick around, because I actually think there's a lot of jumping around now for the brands that are investing in new customer acquisition. There's a lot of trial, can't shop, so they kind of get stuff. It's exciting to get stuff and try it on, try something new. So I think that's really important to continue to think about now, and definitely through 2020, as you kind of mentioned earlier. So 2020 plan would be focusing on your loyal customers and making sure they stick around. But then also, how do you get new customers? And I think focusing on your brand props, your USPs, unique selling propositions are important now. So that transition is what I would sort of recommend for brands to start to think about and to get out of the COVID mindset.
Right. And would it be fair to say, in your point of view, obviously having a great background as an operator at lots of great brands like Charming Charlie and Fandango and Forever 21, the tone, right? The tone of communication. You mentioned email, right? What you do in social. It has to be authentic, right? It has to convey a sense of real trust. And also, right, you want to make sure that you're demonstrating consistent value in this time of uncertainty, right? Of market certainty. People obviously are unemployed, or guess what? They're struggling to get unemployment insurance, and they don't know, if they're going to be able to afford something. But they're committed to your brand. To your point, they're loyal. They want to continue to provide, for their family with the essentials, and you still want to reward them for everything that they're doing. If they're talking about the shared purpose that you mentioned in a community or social setting, and they're willing to go ahead and demonstrate that online and be able to share that with their family and friends, they should be rewarded for that, right? They should be rewarded for that, for the efforts that they're making to bring more visibility around all the great things that your brand or your retailer is doing. They should be rewarded for that. So can you talk about some of the ways in which brands and retailers should be authentic? How does that relate to how they communicate in email? I'm sure there's an empathetic point of view around how that should work. But we'd love to get your thoughts on that too, so that key stakeholders that we talk to are going to listen to this and they understand, hey, there's a way to do this, right? The last thing you want to come across is, hey, here's just a transactional discount because it's nice to have, but you have to be authentic to the core, right?
Yeah, I myself am a little more playful, so I have to make sure that I don't always, it's not always right for every brand, but I think a lot of brands can miss that, and so I think of things like Forever 21 when I was there in 2018. Part of what I helped institute was having more humor on our Instagram. It was very sort of fashion focused, kind of pretty to sexy looks, and we try to kind of pivoted to be more humorous, right? And I think brands miss out on that, and that's not actually for all brands, but I think CPG can do that, right? You have something like the sort of Bumblebee tunas, or like those kind of brands that maybe haven't thought about being humorous in a while. I think there are ways that you obviously, of course, have to be sympathetic. And I think that, what I would say, and I've worked on a lot of political campaigns too. So what I have cautioned all my brands from doing is don't sound like an elected official, don't sound in that sort of official way, because that's not a brand voice. I mean, the reason half of these politicians do it's a script, and you get it. You say things to assuage concerns and make people feel safe, but ultimately you don't showcase a personality there. So I think as a brand, you have a personality. So how do you showcase care and concern, to your point, but I think also not sacrificing a perspective. So some brands that it works for them to share memes, share quarantine memes, share something like that, like this is my quarantine meal, every day or something like that, and they like it's this CPG. I think, again, that's not going to be every brand, but I do say that there are opportunities to grow. Even at Corral, we did, one of ours was one of the posts that had the most engagement, 2,000 or something like that, was a funny one about a mom taping her kids to the ground saying that there's a Corral mom. That's a joke, but they're going to get it. So being humorous is important, because doom and gloom doesn't work for that long, and we don't want to do that. And that's not our job as brands and marketers to give people doom and gloom. We're here to inspire and be aspirational and that's important now. So as much as we talk about this, we got to focus, to your point, authentically. However, a Ralph Lauren is going to do it very differently than a Forever 21, very differently than a Fashion Nova. How do you, like, you couldn't say something like Corona chic, but maybe you could do something like quarantine chic or something like it. How do you message all of this in a way that's a little playful, that gets outside of it, if you're going to talk about it, if you're going to message it? So I think, again, there's like opportunities to gain some market share because so many brands are going to be so stifled and stodgy. And I think especially younger consumers, that this is kind of their first go around with a recession. This is kind of their first go around with something crazy like this. They're going to be wanting some relief. So how you be authentic, I think, is actually go back to your core, your USPs, your core value props, what you are as a brand, and how do you message those on email. Social media is great. It's a great time to be social. I doubt there's anyone out there really who hasn't made some kind of joke about this. So something about it being funny, that we're all locked inside, something a little humorous, right? It's of course terrible, people. It's a terrible thing. But I mean, how do you bring light and levity in, even during these kinds of times? So it's a balancing act, right? I mean, you don't want to just be, what's the word, sort of, you don't want to seem like you're taking advantage of the situation, in that way. And I don't think brands are, and I don't think customers think that. So you're not just opportunistic about your discounts and deals, but at the same time, if customers love your brand, they're going to be happy for this. They're going to be, excited and grateful, and they're going through tough times, and so discounts matter, and especially when you're shipping product now and they're not shopping. So I think that little bit goes a long way. I ultimately say, go back to who you are as a brand. Don't run away from it. If you're a more light brand, lighthearted, please lean into that to some degree. I think your fans are going to be really happy that you do, and don't sound too political, and don't sound like you're doing a public service announcement. I think it'll fall flat. It's nice. It's a nice to do, but I don't necessarily need it from my brand telling me that. I want them to do the things that I know and love them for, to continue to do them.
That's right. Yeah. So if your brand personality is just that, right, and you did that pre-COVID, maintain the integrity of your existing brand, but just take it to the level where you recognize the circumstances of the uncertain economy, and you recognize the challenges that people are facing, and be creative, right? Be creative in the way you demonstrate value, right? So if you have a loyalty program, you want to be able to say, hey, I'm willing to give you an additional 30 days on expired rewards, or guess what? You're a tier 2. We're going to make you tier 1 for the next 30 days. Because we know things are challenging right now, but here's an opportunity for you to get more, from us in these challenging times, without doing, the traditional promotions or discounts. You're just constantly demonstrating more value. And I think the key word is appreciation, right? At the end of the day, you want your most valuable, most profitable customers to appreciate, what you're doing and how you do it. I think that's what you're ultimately saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciation. And to your point, some brands have done a 60-day return policy where it used to be 30 days. So, understanding kind of where relief comes in. And I think maybe that's sort of where I would think about this internally for companies, is it's about relief to some degree, relief in all ways, relief from the craziness, relief from the difficult times we're going to go through, relief from, prices, really, higher prices everywhere other than gas, like you mentioned. Relief and appreciation, I think, are kind of go hand in hand and are synonymous. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know we're running a little bit short of time, but I do want to ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap up. I wanted to get your take on the Amazon effect. It's hard to have these types of discussions without talking a little bit about Amazon. Like, Amazon needed more help, right? So everybody's moving online. They're certainly benefiting from this in a huge way, like they needed the help. But they certainly are. So when you think about your experience, you think about fashion apparel, you think about beauty, you think about skincare, those great verticals, that are going to be, challenged, with this. And some research that I found really interesting. Wunderman Thompson came out with a good piece of research, and I think they surveyed like 500 or so digital leaders, and they identified loyalty as being the one area in which they felt confident that if you do loyalty and do it right, you can effectively, compete or better compete with the likes of, the Amazon. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, now with the current situation, Amazon certainly stands to benefit. What can those key mid-sized, lower enterprise merchants, as well as manufacturers and fashion apparel, skincare, health and beauty. What can they do to think about this? What can they do to compete with Amazon? I mentioned loyalty being one with digital leaders, but is there anything else they should be mindful of so that Amazon doesn't win everything and they stand to get through this difficult time? Would love to get your thoughts on that in those specialized verticals.
Yeah, Amazon, the one sort of screaming headline I gave literally to talk a year ago, or more than that, was take Amazon seriously, really seriously. Whatever vertical you're in, don't ignore them. Brands have ignored that even when I was sounding the alarm bells. So wherever you are. So you're talking about fashion apparel specifically. I can just briefly, note like at Forever 21, Amazon went from not a big player to like, it being like a 15% sort of top performer in fashion apparel, which was insane to see against Forever 21 as a competitor. So, they're going to keep growing and take them seriously. I mean, they're going to be your main competitor, so don't ignore it. So to your point, what do you do? How do you beat back? Because Amazon is honestly, in a lot of ways for big brands, it's a losing proposition. You don't get the data, you get some market share, you get some sales, but CPG is a little better positioned than some of the other ones. But fashion apparel, beauty, etc. I think what to your point, loyalty and brand value are really critical. And I would caution any brand to not put all of their product line on Amazon. You can have some teaser ones, and a lot of brands that I've worked with have teaser, some of the core, but you don't have all of it. Why do you keep coming back to a brand? They have different colors, they have different fits, they have, so it's like an Amazon may have for Ralph Lauren, like they have their classic ones, but maybe they don't have a slim fit or a custom fit or what have you. So I think you have to think about, it goes back really to loyalty and brand pop and what do you service? What is Amazon not going to do? It's not going to have that sort of quality piece. It's not going to have the brand piece. Amazon is there as a convenience, but making sure you differentiate yourself from what Amazon is selling. Quality is important too. I think brands should not sacrifice quality. I think investing in that is still going to be very important. And so Amazon is going to lose against other brands that have quality. So if you have a good, loyal fan base, you continue to sort of produce products that are quality, Amazon won't be able to compete. And also Amazon has a lot, they've gotten better, but they still have a lot of sort of fake sellers out there. So, it goes back to quality. You go and shop on brands and their e-com sites because you know what you're going to get. Amazon is there for convenience and is until they really create their own brands in apparel or owned brands in cosmetics, beauty. I think that you have to maintain that loyalty. So like the Sephoras and the Ultas before this happened, were doing great because their loyalty programs are fantastic. You're going to buy there instead of Amazon because you're going to get points. So how do you think of that consistently and give back? Like, why should I be on a Corral? Why should I be on a Sephora, on an Ulta, or Forever 21 versus Amazon? Because there isn't that kind of loyalty piece. It's convenience. So building that brand, maintaining it, making sure you have quality is vital. Like that. And yeah, you bring it up. I can't say enough that they're just that player that you have to watch out for and really plan strategically your 3-year plan. I mean, and I love, as much as we all use Amazon, I don't want brands going away. I don't want it to be Amazon as the only thing. So.
Exactly.
Don't want
listen, hey, great perspective. I got to tell you, I feel really lucky to have you here because you're very candid. You have a lot of great insight, and we're excited to share that with everybody. At the end of the day, it's us, it's you, it's everybody trying to make sure that brands and manufacturers and retailers are supported as best as we can, so that we can continue to deliver the unique value proposition to get through this very challenging time. So I really appreciate it. Tell everybody where they can find you. Xcellio's out there. I know you're on LinkedIn, but if anybody has any questions that they need answered or want to learn more from you, where can they go?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm redoing my site. Thankfully, I've been, overwhelmed right now, but blow me up on LinkedIn. I'd say blow me up. Please blow me up on LinkedIn because I get a lot of like random spammers on there. So it'd be really nice to get, so find my LinkedIn page and I'll give my email at dlorango@gmail.com. Feel free to email me questions. I'm happy. I love talking about this stuff. I'm grateful to be on here talking about this and helping brands and helping vendors and partners that I love working with. So this is great, and I'm there and I'm a resource as much as I can be and I have the time to be. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.